So welcome everyone to the Project Mercury Innovation Showcase for Cohort 9. My name is Mo Barret, retired Air Force Colonel turned catalytic comedian, and I'll be your MC for today's showcase. First, a special welcome to Project Mercury alumni and Project Mercury innovators in residence. They'll be the first to tell you, after me of course, that one of the best tools from Project Mercury is the community of Air and Space Force innovators, including our industry and academia partners. This network continues well beyond Project Mercury, so thank you to everyone for your investment in the never-ending quest for change. Now, for our first-time guest, you are in for a treat. We already know you sent your tax forms to the IRS and you've streamed the Love is Blind reunion after Netflix recovered from their technical difficulties. So we're excited to have your undivided attention for this innovation showcase. And today of all days is the day to celebrate innovation, since it's the 81st anniversary of the Doolittle Raid. As General Brown said, we've done this before, we can do it again. The members of Cohort 9 have completed an academic program complete with lessons on building and leveraging diverse teams through a productive innovation process. In order to model what a quest for change looks like, this cohort has two experiments going on. Team 7 is working on an issue that their squadron commander wants to get after, and Team 8 is a team from the NATO Innovation Hub. These teams scoped problems of their choosing, except for Team 7, of course, but don't we all choose to do what our commanders tell us to do? All the teams experimented with real solutions to pursue innovative solutions that might not be sought out in a day-to-day organizational bureaucracy. They pass their solutions to a sponsor who will take these innovative solutions forward for the next leg of the journey. Just like Jimmy and his Raiders fused the spirit of innovation and raw courage in World War II, our 8 Cohort 9 teams will showcase their final pitches because we know they didn't do little. We want to make these projects have a lasting impression, but more importantly, these innovators within units across the DoD can impact the innovation culture and work on many more innovation projects in the future. With us here on Tax Day today, we're honored to have 3 esteemed auditors who will judge today's presentation and ultimately select our award winners. Dr. Sherry Gevedon is a wicked problem solver and innovation leader at AFWorks, which is the Air Force's team of innovators encouraging and facilitating industry, academia, and military connections to foster cultures of innovation. Dr. Gevedon is the founder and CEO of Professional Education Seminars, Inc., advising, coaching, and mentoring entrepreneurs for initiatives that impact change in the world. Dr. Atul Dhir is a physician, scientist, successful healthcare entrepreneur, and CEO of Principal Health, a boutique innovation and leadership firm advising and mentoring CEOs of innovative companies. He's currently coaching a team in CHILLS, which is the Chief of Staff Innovation Leadership Seminar. Col Steve Marshall is the principal advisor to the Commander, Pacific Air Forces for political military affairs across the 36 countries in the Indo-Pacific. He also has experience as an air attaché, commander, USAFA instructor, and angel investor. Steve is a graduate of both Project Mercury and Defense Ventures and has experience coaching innovation teams in US and in Singapore. So thank you 3 for being all judgmental for us today. And I also want to recognize the Cohort 9 head judge, Dr. Ethan Eagle, head coach, I apologize. Now, the innovation did some heavy recruiting and brought in several ringers from military, academia, and industry to help these teams develop their projects. Rob Olson, Jim Fish, Bill Lloyd, Joe Byram, Connor Gray, Johnny Barnes, Heidi Gustafson, and Julie Pistol Jansen. These innovators in residence provided invaluable input and feedback. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now my pleasure to introduce our host, the Commandant of the School of Advanced Air and Space Studies at Air University in Maxwell Air Force Base, Alabama, and a Project Mercury graduate of Cohort number 1, Jason TOGA Trew. Colonel Trew, over to you.
Thanks, Mo. Appreciate it. It's really fun to see a lot of familiar names out there, familiar faces. And that gets to the point, that Mo made about the Doolittle Raiders and the chief saying, we've done this, we can do it again. Because I really do feel like this is part of our identity in our culture, and hopefully part of the identity that you yourself are starting to live into. And I think that's why you start to see some of the the repeat personalities come, because this has become just who they are and the kind of and what they do. And for you, the important part is that this is a start to that identity, or it's another leg in that journey. It's definitely not the finish line. Running a 5K doesn't make you a runner. If you want to be a runner, then you do a 5K and then you keep doing 5Ks or something else, right? It just becomes who you are and what you do. So I think today, regardless of the pitches themselves, should be framed in that sense. Like, this is part of your heroic journey on trying to make good change happen in a great organization. Thanks, Mo.
Excellent and timely. What with the Boston 5K times multiple yesterday, so that's perfect. Now, during Cohort 9, our 8 teams started out with the broad topic, integrated by design, with a charge to build collaborative networks outside the traditional Air Force lanes. They worked part-time over the past 12 weeks through stubborn problems, amongst an inordinate amount of ambiguity, and looked outside the box for tactics that could make a disproportionate impact. Regardless of topic, these teams were intentionally designed to harness constructive conflict. They refined their problem statements through research and prismatic thinking. They pursued connections relevant to their problem areas. They ran small experiments. They scrutinized the results for what was truly worth doing, prepared a pitch, and enlisted a sponsor. So let's get ready for the main event. All 8 teams will have an opportunity to share and discuss their findings with our esteemed panel and you, our innovation community. Round 1 of these pitches will be our first 4 teams using a condensed, pre-recorded pitch, followed by 2 minutes of judges' comments. The team will be active in the chat to answer any questions you throw at them. After that, we'll go into round 2, which is our final 4 teams who will share their pitches live, followed by 10 minutes of Q&A time. This is an interactive event, so throughout all the pitches, we want you to comment, share information, and get connected in the chat. Videos from all 8 teams will be made available after the event on our LinkedIn page, and that link should be going into the chat there. And then you'll be able to watch all these pitches again. So let's get on to them. As we roll out these pre-recorded pitches, make sure you put on your best critic hat, because at the end of these 4 pitches, you, the audience, will be voting for the best short version pitch. Most votes receives the coveted Project Mercury People's Choice Award. The first video is from Team 5, the Dolly Partons. Team 5, Dolly, would you go ahead and turn on your cameras and Jolene on into frame so we can see you? So the Dolly Partons looked at how to increase military and community resiliency. They were coached by Yuri Marte and Amy Natalini. Team members, give us your best on-camera wave so we know who you are. And for all of our spectators, remember that these innovators collaborated despite being geographically separated, like islands in a stream. That is what they are. All right, let's roll the film.
Overall trust in the military is declining among a growing percentage of Americans. Reflecting on the past as we go into the future, we can see the contrasting ways that returning service members were treated during World War II and the Vietnam War, being welcomed with open arms or met vociferously with often poor treatment. As we consider the contingency operations that could emerge with a near-peer adversary contemporaneously, it is clear that we need positive interaction between the citizenry and its military. And we believe we can bridge that civil-military gap and bring members of the armed forces and members of local towns closer together through the interconnectedness of volunteering. Hello, I'm Julian Gluck, and I'm excited to speak with you about an issue that I know resonates with military members, their families, and the towns in which they are based: community resiliency. Our Project Mercury team believes that we can transform the quality of life at home and abroad through the coordinated and digitally aided development of military community partnerships through volunteer organization matching. Think of this as a sort of Uber or eHarmony for volunteer programs, which reduces inefficiencies in human resource matching for volunteer groups, improves community trust, and accelerates the ways in which our personnel and their families can give back. Through LinkedIn-style user-supplied demographic information collection, military members and dependents can discover volunteer opportunities based on interests, skill sets, available time blocks on a web and mobile-based platform where philanthropic organizations and charities can solicit volunteers through refined metrics. This idea does not exist within the DoD presently, nor the nonprofit sector. At the member level, Our system would help users locate tailored volunteer opportunities that they may not have known about, support their feelings of connection with their surrounding area, and aid in processing and validating awards or performance reports. For charities, it will bring new talent to support their philanthropic efforts. For units, bases, volunteer groups like the CGOC and our department, this program's database management and meaningful metrics would be beneficial for tracking volunteer output and assessing trends. From our own surveying, we've identified a need where members and dependents have overwhelmingly experienced challenges in finding volunteer opportunities that match skills, and 90% would volunteer more if an application like ours existed. Our Project Mercury team, the Dolly Partons, has been working 9 to 5, honing our ideas so that we can make a difference. To make this happen, we need an Air Force or DoD office to champion and oversee this cause. Base support at 3 specific installations for prototyping, and an estimated $5,000 in funding for app development for this to be scalable across the total force and with international partners. Through your support, our application will become the nexus of civil-military community building and resilience. Thank you.
Fantastic. Dr. Gevedon, we're going to turn it over to you first for comments. Teams will be in the chat to answer any questions, but for now, Dr. Gevedon, over to you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Great job, teams. That was a very good pitch. Congratulations on making it this far. I love the hook. I thought that the problem is obviously incredibly relatable. One of the things I was thinking about is the traction that you've had in terms of your past success. And maybe you could describe a little bit about that for us.
Absolutely. So, hi, I'm Julian Gluck. I'm wearing the same outfit as in the video, so I'm easy to recognize. The main traction that we've had was we pitched it to a potential sponsor, Five and Thrive. And over the course of that conversation with the CSAF's wife's team, so Mrs. Brown's team, they found that there were a number of potential offices of primary responsibility that could champion this plan, whether that would be a government group such as Military OneSource at the DoD level, or an external nonprofit organization, sort of like the Association of Defense Communities, or other ones dedicated to military families. So the main part moving forward, now that we have interested parties, would be finding the office would be able to provide funding for the development of the application and starting the prototyping phase, particularly with either a alpha stage or beta stage of the application, or doing a full-on app ecosystem development and unveiling it then.
One of the things that's compelling about thinking about resilience, especially in community engagement and the volunteerism that you talked about, is that sometimes it's incredibly tough to measure. And we know that there are some evidence-based statistics around, how often we see the kinds of feedback in terms of, what really helps individuals. If you could describe maybe just one word that really goes to the level of resilience and how you might use that one word in your metrics, what would that one word be?
Share. When a community and the military family is really gelling, when they have interests that are spread across borders between the gates, when the community feels like they can enjoy a meal together and they're not viewed as being foreign, even though they may have only lived in this particular city, town, village for a very short period of time, there's a true meaning that is transmitted between the two parties. And that share, that interplay between the two individuals there is what we'd be looking for. Not separate groups, but instead one coalesced unit.
Thank you. Great job, great pitch. And you've left us intrigued.
Thank you.
Well done, Team 5. And yeah, Cosmo, thank you for wearing the same thing so we could pick you out of a crowd. And Just for anybody who's concerned, he meant Cher, like Share, not the other female singer Cher, I'm assuming. So I think people get Dolly Parton and they go right to Cher. So anyway, thank you to Team 5. And there are some questions in the chat, so we'll make sure that conversation keeps happening there. But we're going to move on to Team 2, Novus, who's looking to create a program for active duty Department of the Air Force military members. And they want them to be able to connect with airmen and guardians at a peer level to help with life stressors. Team 2 was coached by Brent Harland and William Gates. Team 2 members, we can reduce all of our life stressors by waving at your green webcam dot right now so we know who you are. And then here we go with Team 2.
I think, there's several barriers when it comes to us being able to be our best self.
Airmen and Guardians don't know the plethora of resource options that are available. And the ones that they do know about, they don't know which ones to use. They don't know which resources to trust, as Department of the Air Force mental health support is focused more towards serious clinical mental health issues.
What we're not short of is leaders, and what we're not short of is wingmen, and it gets back after what you said. If the person on our right or left would just be there for each other, the Secretary of the Air Force, in fact, say it, right? Like, mental health is health.
We wish to create a program for active duty DAF members to connect with airmen and guardians at a peer level. They will be trained in stress support to build trust and to be capable of directing care needs to appropriate services.
I'm flying. I put my helmet on, my visor down, my mask up. You don't know who I am.
We need your help in running a pilot version of this program. The pilot program would involve developing a curriculum with a targeted care overview with services, active listening from CERT training, MFRC finance services, and mental health technician structure. 10 to 20 volunteers to take the training and take it into their unit environment to trial run for 6 months.
3 minutes till the biggest battle of our professional lives. All comes down to today. Either we heal as a team, or we're gonna crumble.
Well done. I love that. So just by way of reminder, if you have any questions for Team 2, here comes a pun. You can do it in the Carpe Diem in the chat room there. Colonel Trew, we give a couple minutes for you for your comments. So Colonel Trew, over to you for Team 2.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. A couple thoughts. The video is like professional, so that the pitch was solid. I think you might have an issue with like Hasbro or whoever actually makes Connect 4, the game. But maybe that was fun and intentional. I liked that it wasn't just a technological solution. I mean, technology is probably a part of those things, but it was more human, right? Than that, and I loved it. Honestly, maybe it's me. I'm still not exactly sure what it is. I hear all the right things. I see like, yes, you're going to do this, but I'm not exactly sure. So in a moment, I'll let you or someone from the group explain to me what this looks like, and then we can continue the conversation. I did notice that small postage stamp picture of the guy with the sign that said, "Need to talk? Yeah, I'll listen." That was brilliant. And I thought that like someone could have thrown that up and just told a little micro story about that. And then that might have helped flesh out what we're actually talking about. So whoever on the team wants to speak to it, go ahead.
So Bethany here from Team 2. So in terms of the theory itself, the reason why this program is different from any other program is the peer-to-peer support. So for many of you, based on disconfirming and confirming feedback we've received, you're like, oh, this sounds similar to MRTs, or it sounds kind of like the VBA program, or it sounds kind of like Connect to Care, or the CERT team, or embedded resiliency teams. It is similar, but the key difference for this is that it's anyone, as long as their pilot is successful and it's funded in the future, anyone can take this type of training to be able to support their peers. So you learn about all of the different resource options that already exist, and you help walk someone through that process. Right now, what happens is when people are struggling, they show up at a clinic and they get redirected and then redirected and then redirected and then redirected. And maybe 9 months later, they have their actual mental health care plan in place if they haven't given up and gotten significantly worse.
Okay, so still, I get the reason, but still, you started off by saying what it's not, and it's like, okay, well, what is it? But when you said you're providing training for people to then be a resource, a walking military one source, as Colonel Marshall put it in the chat, I'm starting to now sort of form in my mind what it is that you're actually going for, and I do think if we treat, I mean, obviously there's a difference between not being sick, disease, and wellness, and you're sort of on that spectrum. I don't go to a doctor to learn how to be a little bit healthier. I just go to the doctor when I'm broken. So if that's the model, then what can we do, so to speak, well left of bang in the timeline, so that before something happens, we have people that support us. So who is doing this well, or who in time, even if you had to go back to history, or who are your exemplars for this?
I would say in part, some of the work that the squadron embedded resiliency teams have done. Chris, I know you're on the line and can probably speak better to that than me, but one thing from a historical perspective we looked at is troops who were deployed during the World Wars who had time to connect with each other and talk about their issues and their struggles on the extremely long cross-ocean boat journey back. So that kind of connectivity, it doesn't exist in particularly great fashions in the military. It used to around flying units, for example. So when everyone would go out to the squadron bar and hang out all the time, you had that level of connectivity there. And if you're struggling, those things could come up. But that also kind of relied on an alcohol-fueled environment. So, and that's kind of gone away. So we want to replace this with when you're PCSing all the time, when you're deploying, when you're going to UI all the time, how do you lean on other people, especially in a post-COVID era where a lot of the connecting functions have either gone away or significantly changed? What if you just need to vent to somebody, but you don't really know who to vent to, and you don't really want to bother your supervisor?
Yeah, okay. As we wrap this up, one, no supervisor should be bothered by that. Two, having been a fighter pilot, yes, this practice happened. I was never going to tell anyone in the fighter pilot bar how I was struggling with an issue. That was not going to happen. Thankfully, we have safe places. And three, just be careful about making something like that, which sounds like just being a good human. Be careful about making that something special, like that some people have to be trained to do. Maybe it's just sort of like, how do we be better at being good people? And then that will naturally spill over to these things. But a worthy effort nonetheless. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. This is a good conversation. And yeah, remember, we're going to have breakout rooms open. You can continue the conversation in the chat. So that is good. So thank you, Colonel Trew and Team 2. Next up is Team 7, Team Domino, who worked on shortening the time it takes for intel to get to the user. The unique feature about this team is they are mainly from one squadron, the 36th Intel Squadron at Langley Air Force Base, under the command of a fellow Project Mercury alumni, Lieutenant Colonel George Jungle Hart. And they have a member of Project ARC embedded in the team to help develop and accelerate their solutions adoption. They're coached by Nadia Fisher and James Smokey Williams. Dominoes, we want to make sure we can see your whole face and not just a pizza it. So give us a wave to let us know who you are. And Courtney, over to you to deliver the Domino video.
Greetings, Project Mercury. We are the Team 7 Dominoes. I want to bring us back 20 years to the start of Operation Iraqi Freedom, when the U.S. Air Force got a reality check on its ability to collect intelligence and develop targets at the speed of the warfighter.
The chaos in the very beginning of Iraqi freedom was chaos. And it took us probably about 5 or 6 days to actually get into a regular battle rhythm.
A delay which resulted in a loss of resources, strategic advantage, and human life. 20 years later, not enough progress has been made. The current state remains a slow-moving intelligence collection and target development process that will not keep up with the pace and complexity of tomorrow's war. This issue is not a lack of tools or capability, but a lack of communication and collaborative capacity. Critical information is withheld at the human level. We think about and fight our wars with the precedent of the 20th century instead of with the capabilities of the 21st. We must increase our agility and ability to adapt to changes in the battle space faster than our adversaries.
The bottom line is that the effort is about trying to get better at kill chain automation, right? Finding the targets faster, getting that information to the commanders or to those shooters, whomever it might be, in order to prosecute the targets.
Our solution, in partnership with the 36th Intelligence Squadron, is Pathfinder. Pathfinder is a purpose-made software intended to serve as a hub for tracking targets and integrating processes across the enterprise, meeting every unit where they are at. This is done through a unified interactive web page providing a unit-to-unit timeline of target development as it moves across the enterprise. We are looking to close the loop rather than add links to the chain. Pathfinder provides data centrality, arming analysts with intent and the context and requirements surrounding targets to deliver on them, dynamically focusing scope and granularity to meet needs. We facilitate transparent and rapid feedback, breaking down organizational barriers at each step. Most importantly, we track the data, recording key analysis and informing processes to project target delivery date and time. Centralizing this data on a single platform, Pathfinder will be the one-stop shop for holistic targeting. In a future fight against China, we will not have 5 days to find a solution. Pathfinder is your solution.
If there's a future conflict with China, the timing is too dramatic. It is too fast. We don't have 5 days to get our stuff together.
In a partnership with Project ARC, real development on Pathfinder is already in progress. The prototype is expected to be delivered and exercise tested by summer of 2023 as a phase 1 of this project. However, we will need your advocacy and an organizational push across the 363rd ISR wing to standardize our digital platforms to enable data access. This will ensure the prototype's success in the field, garnering support to continue professional and sustained development on the product into a phase 2. Thank you for considering Pathfinder for the future of the Intel enterprise.
Fantastic. Now, remember, Domino's Pizza only have 30 minutes to deliver your pizza, but the team 2 here, team 7 only has 2 minutes. So, Dr. Dhir, we'll give it over to you for your comments.
Thank you, Mo. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I was very impressed. I thought the pitch was really well delivered. It had a real urgency to it. It was specific. And they've gone quite far, not only in defining the problem, in identifying and taking a perspective on what the solution may be, and then also going towards defining a very specific, doable experiment, and have already enlisted partnership. So kudos to the team. You've done a full, comprehensive process of innovation here in a very short period of time and on a very important problem. So very impressive. I was curious on a few things that I observed. One was the nature of the problem that you're getting at is pretty foundational. If you can't gather intelligence and do target development, that's getting at a pretty core problem of being in any kind of warfare situation. What was your insight as you identified the deeper reasons for this problem? Why has it not succeeded, or what have been some of the barriers that over the many years since Iraqi freedom, no useful solution has come through.
Right. So I think one of the main observations we notice is that we operate off precedent, right? So we imitate the past to project how we're going to operate in the future. I don't think we've been battle tested in the ways that we need to be to like kind of force that evolution. So what we have now is a lot of efforts that are throwing, millions and millions of dollars to try to automate these things from a technological standpoint. And what we're really missing is using those digital links that we use nowadays that we take for granted to really do that communication. An example that was given to us, like the best way to get a plane in the air sometimes is to talk to another like a squadron commander over Facebook Messenger. So things like that, just the simple technology we take for granted needs to be integrated into this pipeline. And it's not doing that yet because we're going off precedent of how we fought wars in the past.
Great, thank you. That's very helpful. The second question I had was, particularly given the theme of this overall cohort, integrated by design, has any other department within defense, or even if you got a chance to look at this, it's a pretty common problem I see in the industry, getting accurate information in a timely way. Your criteria of how you're developing the product makes a lot of sense. You're centralizing it, you're making it transparent, and you're looking for a technology solution. Any processes or effort the team spent in seeing if similar problems existed in other areas of within different branches of defense, and if how they had potentially addressed this issue?
So yes, we have. And for a second, I missed your mic, so apologies if I don't hit the entire question. Yes, we have. There are a lot of efforts that are going on concurrently, costing a lot of money and kind of operating on a much longer timeline. What we're looking for is very much so a short-term win, right? Like if we can produce something that brings the value now, that is going to kind of leave an example, a template of like what should be emulated in the future. That's what we're going for. So with that, what we're uniquely bringing in that a lot of other projects aren't is that we're on the ground, right? We're with the analysts, we're talking to them daily and figuring out what they need in order to deliver the product that they want, not that is some grand vision, right? For 10 years down the line.
I love it. I love the fact grand visions often don't work. It's good to test small experiments and learn. And my again, in addition to congratulating the team, my offer to you would be to see, instead of developing a solution from scratch, see what you can already leverage that exists. And I'm pretty confident in this area, there's enough things you can leverage instead of developing something new and build something really special here. Congratulations to the team.
Thank you to Team 7 and to Dr. Dhir. That's great. And there's a lot of conversations going on in the chat, so it's happening all over. I love it. Our final video presentation is from Team 1, the Wizards of I.D, who worked on improving the ability to share information with partners and allies at the speed of need. They were coached by Celeste Summer-Lucius, and just to alleviate any discord, all secret markings are for demonstration purposes only and not affiliated with Thug Shaker Central. Courtney, over to you.
We live in a world that is more connected than ever before. We can share information with each other across the entire planet with the click of a button. When it comes to sharing information between the United States and our closest allies and partners, bureaucracy gets in the way, even though sharing information is a national priority. The National Security Strategy states, our allies and partners add significantly to our own strengths. That we will work in lockstep with our allies and partners, and that incorporating allies and partners at every stage of defense planning is crucial to meaningful collaboration. Some of our closest allies have been with us in the trenches of World War I, have been with us storming the beaches of Normandy, and have been unrivaled partners in the war against terror. And something is wrong. We still exclude our closest partners at every step of military planning. The problem is systemic, pervasive across the Department of Defense and beyond. There must be something that we can do to quickly change the way that we share information with our closest allies and partners. Changing releasability requirements is key. For properly cleared allies and partners, we should dismantle the disclosure process and presume all information, unless identified by special caveat, is shareable. The current process requires a bureaucratic review of every document requested for release by a foreign disclosure officer to ensure compliance with applicable directives. Eliminating this process for pre-cleared allies and partners will not only speed up the process for release, but will allow operational commanders to share information critical to ongoing operations once they have determined a need to share. The ultimate goal is to show our adversaries that we can work cohesively to achieve greater effects than any of us could alone, which will deter those adversaries from taking action against our interests. For over a century, we have fought together. And we have worked together. Because we know our friendships and alliances are crucial for facing the challenges of tomorrow. We are convinced that together, with our combined knowledge and abilities, we can achieve more than any of us can on our own.
Well done. Awesome. Colonel Marshall, we'll turn it over to you for about just 2 minutes of comments, if you can. And Colonel Marshall will come into the frame here.
Okay, yeah, you're speaking to my heart here. This is a huge problem, and you've identified a problem, and you say eliminate a bunch of stuff, and I think I know the answer to this, but I didn't hear a who can do this or who you're asking to do this, because I think I know the answer to that. But I want to hear from somebody on the team real briefly, who can make all those steps go away that you've identified as the problem. Can anyone else?
I can speak to that a little bit. When you look at in the sponsors that we've been talking to, Brigadier General Ty Newman in his shop, he's supportive of this. He echoes your sentiments, sir, about the challenges here. Also, the sentiments and confirming feedback we've gotten from a number of folks we talked to. So that's our starting spot. There may be others as you get closer to the front lines that can also implement this as well, but that's sort of where we're starting at headquarters, Air Force.
Okay. Yeah, I think your answer is OSD, by the way. It's an OSD level problem. And so even 4-star levels are having trouble when they want to release stuff to our Australian DCOM, et cetera. So I think you have a lot of people that work in the Pentagon that are very red, that want to do things right, and they're focused on the rules, and they've been there forever. And what you need is you're battling against a lot of 4-star leadership who wants to do things fast, that are out on the front lines. And if you can break down those barriers and work within policy restrictions, I think that's where your problem lies. And I love the fact that I think you have identified the problem. You haven't gone to, hey, we need this technological solution to share things. You've looked at what the real problem is, which is a policy issue within the DoD. And I think what you need to do, and maybe you'll find something different, is to work up the chain to find out who can actually waive this, who can make the changes, and then use the Project Mercury and the competing values framework to get who do you need to shepherd, what's your Trojan horse to fix this. And if you continue to work this problem, you're going to have a lot of high level support. I know General Wilsbach out here in PACAF feels very strongly about this, because he has a deputy commander Australian that we just brought on that he is having issues sharing things with right across the hallway. So this is an identified problem. I think you've accurately identified the problem and the fact that it's a policy problem, not a technology problem. So I commend you for that, and not just focusing on it. The production value of these videos is incredible, by the way. I don't know where we were a year ago, but I think it's awesome. I commend you, the whole team, the coaches, et cetera, for getting to the problem. And now you need to drive towards a solution, which was a little bit missing in there, but that's a minor critique. I think you've done a good job. So yeah, Ethan's going to blockchain. Fix the policy first, and then we can deal with the zero trust stuff. That's all I got. I appreciate it. I think that's my 2 minutes.
No, thanks, Colonel Marshall. Appreciate it. You've talked about shepherds and Trojan horses, so this is all good. And we're going to hear about this similar problem from the NATO side as well. But for now, thanks to our first 4 teams, Team 5, the Dolly Partons, Team 2, Novus, Team 7, Domino, and Team 1, the Wizards of I.D. To everybody who's watching on our Zoom community, it is now time to vote on the People's Choice Award. We're opening up a poll, and using that poll, you choose which team has proposed how to solve a real problem with a real solution, and if it has the wow factor. You choose. The poll's open now. You have 2 minutes. We'll collect the results, and then we'll announce the winner during the awards portion of the showcase. While teams 5, 2, 7, and 1 go and get ready for the red carpet awards portion, we will transition to our second half of presentations, our 4 live pitches. Now, I'm delighted to introduce our NATO team. This is Team 8, the Smurfinators. Like the Team 1 Wizards of I.D, they also identified the pain of overclassification, but again, from a NATO coalition perspective. They were coached by Craig Bying, Brandie Jeffries, and special coach Kristen Torma. And if you have questions, there's no need to be blue. You can use the chat feature to ask questions during the pitch. Team 8, the screen is yours.
Thank you for that. Naravan Saidati Visadati. Bonjour, ça va? Nous sommes les Smurfinator. Wir sind das NATO-Team here in Project Mercury. We welcome you to our presentation. I think you already got a slight taste that our presentation is different, that we are a different team, and to be precise, 31 times different. That is why we gave us the name. Different, but sharing the same set of values and a mindset. We are stronger together, and we win as a team. Welcome to our world. Welcome to Allied Command Transformation. Welcome to the place where NATO thinks it thinks the future. Welcome, in fact, to a world in silos. Living in a silo world, I could give you an example what it means living in this risk-averse silo world. I give you an example. I work for a French 4-star. Whenever he needs classified information, I have to print it because, of course, there's no such thing like a reader, a tablet, etc., etc. That means I print it, I run to the printer, I log in, I confirm for the first time, I confirm for a second time that I'm sure that I want to print classified information. I wait, I receive the document. I start over because I forgot that the default setting is print 2-sided. My general loves 1-sided. So I do it start over again because for a second time, there's a second default setting you have to change manually. Black and white printing. Nobody likes it, but it's there. Finally, I got my hard copy. I run downstairs to the registry, wait until it's manually registered, and then move on. I could talk really for another 5 minutes as we got added new rules almost every month. But I think you got the key message. We have outdated processes and procedures that do not support a secure and safe environment, but in fact, ridicule it. About the recent leak of Pentagon papers, I think I don't have to leave any word. As I just said, one example, and I'm not alone. We got 3 key messages out of our survey. 1, information access is hampered, talking about classification or even where to find information at the right place at the right time. 2nd, reasons are technology, processes, and culture. And 3, duty to share is absolutely key. Hence, our guiding question and our goal are simple. How to change the culture at Allied Command Transformation in order to push us towards duty to share as a mindset and as a policy.
So where are we now and what's next? We are on the brink of step 3, which is bolstered by the interviews and the experiments that we did. And following our assessment, it's clear that top-down approaches fail every single time. So we propose to change within the existing rules and to start a bottom-up movement where supported with the following campaign. So this is our Boost Palooza campaign. Okay, always welcome to join. It's a way to visualize the change in culture and mindset that we want to do and to convert our culture to a culture to share. But what is Boost Palooza exactly? we chose the image of a sort of energy drink. Of course, we're completely compliant with the FDA regulations because we are in the US. We can give you the nutrition slide if you need to. What is Boostpalooza mainly about is what can you do for me, for all, for us to improve the sharing culture in our organization. It's about tackling unnecessary overclassification. It's about stimulating a pragmatic process to sharing, which of course is caring. It's a reflection on a common sense of trust. It's enabling a more effective communication flow. And what it can do is actually a bottom-up approach within the existing rules, because top-down rule changes actually don't work.
I know this scheme looks more like a manual to the Maze skateboard, but in fact, it's our road to success towards duty to share. It reflects 4 key messages to achieve real change. First, we trust each other. Second, we start bottom up. We change within the rules first, and we are agile in our hearts and minds. With these key messages in mind, we confronted our leadership with the following video clip stating that they, the leadership, always do only the talk. Change the rules, need to share is important, we need a new mindset, etc., etc. But they never do the walk, which is nothing else, in our opinion, as a lack of mission command. Please watch the quick sum up we presented to our leadership.
Sharing information within NATO, what can be improved? Other the current process is like for sharing information. First of all, the information is in a closed system and is overclassified. The information is hard to access and it's hard to share. And why this might be a weakness. As a knowledge-driven organization, having a cumbersome process for sharing information means less efficient work. And deter information sharing. Some information is available exclusively in the office, and information communication is very strictly regulated. For example, Ralph needs to go through a process of printing and then registering each and every document that he wants to communicate to his superior, meaning tens of documents a day. The good part is the people within an organization that drive the processes and rules. Can we improve? Always apply these principles: duty to share, confidence in the concept, be agile, and outpace mission command. And please always remember that sharing is caring. Please don't hoard information. You can help us in becoming a better knowledge organization.
So, as we said, we did the talk many times already in NATO. Now let's walk the talk. We are NATO, we live mission command, we win as a team, and in fact with Boostpalooza. Join us. Cheers.
Cheers.
I love it. I'm going to go have to check the shelves for my can of Boostpalooza. So great work, Smurfinators. It's time for the judges' comments and questions. And Dr. Dhir, we're going to let you kick it off. Now we have 10 minutes for questions. So again, we can be active in the chat here and then on the screen. So Dr. Dhir, we'll let you kick it off.
Well, thank you, Tim, again. You've identified, it's clear, a real problem. So definitely you win all the points on that. What I wasn't clear on is you defining the problem as change, ultimately about culture and mindset. But if you look at any of these problems, there are some real reasons for why this overclassification exists. And what would be lost if you were to have oversharing? So any insight into that will serve you in developing your solution in terms of what processes or approach you used in terms of journey mapping, deeper insight into customers, 360, interviews with stakeholders who are in favor of overclassification or who in their red color are concerned about the dangers and the downside of sharing information that doesn't need to be shared. Can you share what process you use to better identify the challenges and the obstacles to why overclassification exists?
Sure, sir. Thank you very much. So the first thing, our service, our interviews, in fact, reflected the example I gave you, and there are multiple different blocks in our roads on the way forward. And I would like to relate to the group that presented before. If even the United States as one nation faces this problem, think about 31 nations. It makes it even more difficult. And that is the reason why we said, okay, top-down approaches failed multiple times in our organization again and again and again. It's not only a question about the military. We are a political organization and we need 31 nations on the table to agree to a certain thing and make a certain decision. And that is the reason why we decided, okay, to address this red part of the challenge, we start our change within existing rules. Because as we are 31 nations, the rules we have are quite generic and are able or offer room for improvement. So by identifying the rules we have, reflect how much flexibility we have, and connect it to the culture of the people, I think we have an approach where we can do a first step. But as we stated, this part of the project is not to change the rules, but change within the rules with flexibility, with trust, and with the mindset that we are lacking at the moment.
And I can add on that, sir, that like Ralph says, the rules are so broad that actually it's most likely the interpretation and the very risk averseness of a lot of people that make basically information that should be readily accessible, like unclassified information, actually difficult to access. I have a top secret, NATO secret clearance, sorry, but I am blocked by silos. I cannot read unclassified information when it's stored in some kind of information system. These are not things that are expressed in rules. It's basically the people who design these systems and who work in these systems that don't think about the need to share. Over.
Thank you. I have just one follow-up question and obviously open it up for others. You know, often when you have challenges like this, culture and mindset is always in play. The challenge of using culture and mindset change as a high quality target is it becomes very difficult to measure success. What metrics, as you run this experiment to inform your future solutions, what metrics will you use to make sure that you are having the impact that you desire?
I can actually, one of the experiments that we did was a interview. One of the interviews we did with our data scientists. We actually have a sort of AI system that is scanning documents and trying to identify relevant information. We looked into the breakdown of the number of documents that were stored in the system and their classification, and this could actually become a KPI. The number of documents that are actually living within a secret system that are unclassified, it's actually a very high volume, which I will not explain here. But this could be a very interesting metric to see if people, because actually it's actually the people who produce this document who decide in which system it should live, and they have a choice. They could even do it in a normal unclassified system, but they still do it for the moment in the secret system because it's their by default way of doing business. So this could be a very easy metric for us.
And the other thing, sir, is most of our generals still like to use a messenger like WhatsApp to communicate with each other on their smartphones, private phones, business phones, computers, and so on. So NATO, at this point of time, doesn't have a messenger system to communicate at least to an unclassified level, which in our definition is already a certain level of classification. In fact, they are failing to their own rules. So what did we do? And this experiment is just running and shows us the first successes. So we created now a messenger as a minimum viable product, introduced it to the command group of our organization, and offered them a system that is in quality and quantity working like WhatsApp, Signal, or whatsoever, running on our own servers, but they can communicate officially to the level of NATO unclassified. So that is an experiment that is still ongoing, but it's already distributed to a certain number of people within the organization. And the supporting staff of our 4-star general is already using it for 6 weeks now. Over.
Thank you. I love the specificity of one of your metrics, which is obviously the quantity of classified documents, and also a very specific experiment you're running, which will inform your solution. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This was really done. This is really well done, and I appreciate it. I love all the chatter that's going on in there in the chat. And again, we will have breakout rooms later on that you can ask these questions and have these conversations, because these are good discussions we're having. So thank you to Team 8. Next up is Team 4, N and A, aka the opposite of clothed and brave. They were coached by Dave Sugar Lyle and John Kerrigan. Ladies and gentlemen, Team 4.
All right, thanks Miko for running tech. Hello, thanks for tuning into the showcase. We are Team NNA, and we are presented with the challenge of joint innovation as it relates to integrated by design, and this idea that collaborative decision-making is happening from the very beginning. So our team decided to tackle the challenges of information sharing surrounding joint innovation, and propose that standing up a joint innovation council to communicate those innovation efforts within the DoD and the Department of Defense or Department of Air Force is a key step in achieving integration by design. So what we're looking at here is a visual representation of those information sharing challenges surrounding joint innovation. There are 262 innovation organizations across the DoD, with no central communication of those challenges and projects that they're working on or through. The innovation ecosystem that you see in this slide relies heavily on who knows who and where, making it really difficult to achieve the SecDef's priority of success through teamwork. So these different innovation units, they have different strengths and they have different project focuses, which could positively contribute to other organizations, but there's no transparency on what problems are actively being worked within the DoD. So this lack of transparency is a result that each branch's innovation ecosystem works independently. And what we want to do is create an opportunity for a full-on handshake between and within those ecosystems by 2025 to support the national security strategy and create a new ecosystem that is stronger and more agile in response to our adversaries. So we have a short 3-minute video here for you to explain a little bit further about what we want to do.
Welcome to the challenge of joint innovation information sharing with Team NNA, part of Cohort 9 of Project Mercury. The Secretary of Defense has charged the DoD with developing innovative solutions for today's warfighters, and the DoD has answered this in a big way. According to the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense, there are 262 innovation organizations across the DoD. The problem is they rarely coordinate with each other or even share what projects they are working on. Small collaborations may happen, such as DIU teaming with Naval X, or AFWorks teaming with Tesseract, but this still leaves the majority of the ecosystem out of the loop. One of the Secretary of Defense's priorities is to succeed through teamwork, but how much teamwork is really going on here? Our solution is to establish a Joint Innovation Council by 2025 to support the National Defense Strategy by promoting information sharing and synchronizing innovation efforts across the joint DoD ecosystem. A number of websites already exist touting that they do exactly that, but while technology is a wonderful tool, it cannot replace the face-to-face connections that are vital to developing a functioning network of innovation professionals. The Innovation Council model has already proven successful on a smaller scale. In Colorado, a council of Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines meet quarterly to discuss their innovation projects. One example of success this council shared with us is a Marine contract that was developed to allow Amazon lockers to be placed on Marine bases. The Council then modified the contract to apply to all DoD installations. Without this Council, it's likely this contract would have never been discovered by the other services. We've seen that this Council works, and now we just need to scale it DoD-wide. NSIN has an existing website called OpenHive that is easy for innovation organizations to access and use. We propose a coalition of no more than 25 elite innovation professionals from across the DoD, chaired by an 05, 06, or GS-15, that will meet quarterly, ideally in person, to discuss current projects and focus topics selected by the chairperson. Council members would investigate projects from organizations and spark cells to bring to the meeting, and once the meeting concludes, the meeting minutes and any action items would be distributed on OpenHive for greater distribution. In order for a Joint Innovation Council to succeed, most importantly, it will need the support and direction from senior leaders to form the initial council. Additionally, funding would be required for quarterly meetings. The estimated yearly TDY cost of $150,000 could be reduced by having fewer in-person meetings or by using joint TDY funds to lower the cost. What makes this Joint Innovation Council unique is its ability to evolve quickly to tackle emerging problem sets using the latest innovative techniques. For example, initial council meetings could be focused on big joint issues such as JADC2, ACE, or the streamlining of the acquisitions process. Each DoD organization brings its own strengths to the table, but so far there isn't a table where everyone can gather to share the information for the benefit of all. A Joint Innovation Council would promote information sharing across the DoD innovation ecosystem and allow us to innovate faster together.
Hello, I'm Miko Morales from Team NNA. So some supporting initiatives, General Brown's Accelerate, Change, or Lose, and the Department of the Air Force Operation Imperatives. These are a few that we have located down here on this slide. And these would be some of the focus areas that this joint collaboration can focus on to better our future as a DoD. The avenues that we've explored: baseline entry-level Spark innovation education. Air Force Works is currently working on a Spark in a Box resource, so we didn't choose that option. Joint Innovation Community of Practice. Community of Practice has a negative connotation to some. Most people don't like to hear that word. It's like, hey, let's have another powwow. OpenHive platform exists. Could our project improve it or reside there? We don't know. We reached out. We didn't get much information back from them, but it requires participation. And most people, if it requires effort, they don't want to do it. Joint Innovation Internship. Project Art has been very successful, but is staffed entirely by volunteers. And in its current state, it's difficult to get funding. A joint Project Mercury course. Who's going to fund that? A great idea, but who's going to fund it? Annual Innovation Conference. We do know someone that went to one in March, 12th of March. We reached out to get some information, pros and cons from that conference, and see how it went, the benefits from it, but we have not heard back from them. These are some of our collaborators. We've spoken to a few. We've done a few experiments. We pitched to them our idea, and a lot of them like it. Most of them have dealt with stovepiping. Most of them have dealt with transitioning issues. One specifically was a Dover spark cell, where General Minahan visited them and told them that he wanted them to create a Hellfire missile that can shoot out of a tank and hit its target. And what Dover spark cell told them was like, hey, we need the Army here. So it sounds like there's a need for joint innovation there.
So I think what we've also heard in our listening tour of innovation cells is that there's not just one source for sharing ideas. Vision is the database to house innovation ideas within the Air Force, and people either love it or they don't love it. Slack is the preferred communications tool, definitely in the corporate space for innovation, but again, is dependent upon what users are logged into the system. And then AFWorks Spark Cell Portal is another of the top 3 information exchange programs, exchange platforms that we heard in our listening tour. But as you can see, there are multiple networks without strategically connecting units across units in a meaningful way. As a real world comparison, it's important to note that hackers do some of their best work as individuals or small cells, but as Simon Sinek so aptly pointed out and brought to light, is that we know they still get together to plan in-person conferences to share some of their best practices and to collaborate. So we're offering a solve of creating a joint innovation council, bringing together the elite innovation professionals across the DoD. And this solution utilizes that existing network and the infrastructures that are already in place. the ability to solicit projects from innovation cells and offices throughout each quarter, and asking the MAGCOM innovation officers to serve as those leads, creating connection, and to meet quarterly, ideally in person or with video conference. They can discuss current and future projects and share contacts, best practices to overcome barriers to innovation. Those meeting minutes can be shared on OpenHive. They're searchable and available to everyone for all innovation cells and organizations to access.
Ways ahead. So next steps is to establish initial MAGCOM support. We need someone big, we need someone bold to support this initiative and foster it. Hopefully it resides in a MAGCOM that has ambitious innovation officers such as the A5, A7, it could be AMC, Material Command, ACC. DAF support by fiscal year 24 and joint support by fiscal year 25. Initially, we want this to be joint with a small group of people, 25 members who know what's going on, such as wing commanders, as Jamie mentioned in her video. The estimated total right now is $150,000 that we expect for TDY, lodging, transportation, plane tickets, and travel. But depending on what wing commanders that we have in this council, that number can lower drastically if they tend to, or if they want to attend a conference such as the AFA or the Air Force Works Innovation Weeks or South by Southwest DoD Innovation Summit. And finally, innovation. Imagine the future and fill in the gaps. Do you have any questions?
Have you seen, there was a latest, so at one point before I ask a question, there was just an article that came out, or a couple articles, where the Commission on Defense from the Atlantic Council put out almost the same idea and said DIU needs to be this organizing authority across the joint community. And so I encourage you to look that up, because you've identified the age-old problem that seems to come up in every Project Mercury cohort that finds its way to some solution where we need to map and collaborate. And that is, I bet we could look back on almost every Project Mercury cohort, and that will be one of the problems identified, and there will be a solution. There's a lot of stuff in the chat, again, as they said, and I'll leave it there. Have you thought about, and this is kind of my framework from the question I asked the other team in the chat, is there any ethical considerations here? Do you feel like you are using a utilitarian approach to this, or did you look at this through any philosophical frameworks on how you're going to solve this problem by either adding bureaucracy, introducing a layer of bureaucracy or not? Is this the right way to go about this, or not?
So Miko, go ahead,
Joy. No, you got it.
Yeah, so to your first point about DIU, we actually did go direct to them. They said that basically it wasn't wow enough for them and they wanted no part in it, but they did, with Colonel Alvarez, not to single him out, say, yes, this is absolutely needed with all the different stovepipes. Like, do it, but probably not on our level and our problem. So then what we went to next was AFWorks and other people like Aim High, and talked to some of them, and they said, absolutely, we still get stovepiped in our own little worlds. But the problem that we're running into is from the tactical wing level and below. And when I put that in the chat, I meant more of AMC, for instance. I think Miko said it was up to 13 wings or something crazy in that world. They get together, they talk about red things of readiness and formates and all that glorious stuff, but they don't actually come together and say, hey, this is what we're working on at our wing. This is what we're doing here. There's no actual collaboration other than at like our innovation strategic cells like AFWorks and all that. So that's why we approached it more of like a warfighter and below of the tactical wing level, and let them give our solutions up to, based off of the strategic guidance that we get, and start channeling that up over.
It is time to get dressed, because I'm afraid that's all the time we have for Team 4. But you guys did a great job. Appreciate that. And our next pitch will be from Team 6, the Wanderers. They were coached by Doug Fullingham. Ladies and gentlemen, Team 6.
Hey, everyone. I'm Lawrence, maintainer from Little Rock Air Force Base.
I'm Tina. I'm a dietitian from Nellis Air Force Base.
And I'm Kelsey, a sophomore at the United States Air Force Academy.
And we are a part of Team 6, also known as the Wanderers. Air Force medical providers are constantly burdened with a large admin workload that often takes precious time and resources, detracting from the primary goal of providing quality health care to our men and women in uniform. But what if I told you that there is a solution to this problem? What if I told you that we have a cutting-edge technology that can automate many of these administrative tasks, freeing up Air Force medical providers to focus on what they do best, caring for their patients? In the words of Chief Brown, what works today will fail tomorrow. Picture this. You're a healthcare worker, overwhelmed by the multitude of tasks in your already full schedule. You're constantly dealing with an influx of patients, high-pressure situations, and tight deadlines. In the midst of all this chaos, paperwork and administrative tasks can seem like a never-ending burden.
Burnout is a serious issue in the healthcare field, particularly for Air Force medical providers who often face long hours, high-stress situations, and heavy workloads. According to a 2020 survey by Medscape, more than 50% of physicians reported experiencing burnout, which is an increase from 40% in 2018. Another study published in the Journal of Occupational Health Psychology found that healthcare providers with burnout are more likely to report medical errors, lower patient satisfaction, and higher rates of turnover. Burnout can manifest in many ways, including physical exhaustion, emotional fatigue, and a decreased sense of accomplishment. Left unaddressed, burnout can have a significant impact on the quality of care provided to patients, as well as the well-being of medical providers themselves. The consequences of burnout extend beyond healthcare providers' well-being and job satisfaction. According to a report by the National Academy of Medicine, burnout can also lead to increased healthcare costs, reduced quality of care, and decreased patient safety. So imagine a world where healthcare providers don't have to spend time during the visit or hours after a visit documenting. Instead, there's an option to use a system called Nuanced Dragon Ambient Experience that listens to the appointment and documents automatically. As a patient, you no longer feel like the provider is ignoring you while they're typing, and for the provider, they get that time back and get to spend more face-to-face time with the patient. It's a win-win situation. Your patients get better care, and our physicians are able to work more efficiently and effectively.
Through this automated system, we have the potential to increase job satisfaction, reduce absenteeism, and increase productivity. Medical providers who are well supported and engaged are more likely to provide high-quality care to their patients and feel a sense of accomplishment in their work. Healthcare providers and patients alike have the opportunity to experience a boost in their wellness while simultaneously investing in the future. By implementing this initiative, we'll not only help our force save time and money, but we'll also ensure that they have more time to invest in their own well-being by automating processes and freeing up time for our personnel, ultimately leading to a healthier and happier military. And the benefits don't stop there. According to the World Health Organization, investing in employee programs that focus on wellness outcomes can yield a return on investment of $3.27 for every dollar spent. This is due to reduced healthcare costs, decreased absenteeism, and increased productivity. In fact, a study published in the Journal of Occupational and Environmental Medicine found that employees who participated in programs dedicated to wellness outcomes had a 28% reduction in sick leave and 26% reduction in healthcare costs. Now, scale those numbers to our entire force and just think about the tremendous opportunities with such a small change in processes. It's past due to couple our technology with practical application to work toward a future in which we can all focus on what matters most, people as our mission. The benefits are far-reaching, extending beyond the burnout and wellness of our medical personnel to reducing healthcare costs, increasing productivity, and improving patient outcomes. As stated by the Vice Chief of Staff, General Alvin, innovation can and must apply to human challenges, not just our technical and mechanical inventory. Together, we can drive positive change to forge a healthier, happier, more efficient, and more lethal workforce. Now, please turn your attention to the following video.
The Air Force has a long history of advancing technology to improve their aircrafts and weapons. For example, fixed-wing aircraft came into the scene in ground attacks when World War I broke out in Europe. Great evolutions in warfare tactics and technology soon put the U.S. in the lead. The most important weapon system is the human weapon system. Let's address this. Burnout in our healthcare provider's role is leading to degradation within our human weapon system. We must accelerate change or lose. The Wanderers, part of Project Mercury Cohort 9, proposed that a trial be conducted to reduce healthcare provider burnout by reducing the amount of time documenting. For every hour in direct patient care, physicians currently take 2 hours in the electronic health record system. Nurses and staff spend up to 41% of their time in the healthcare record and documentation. Using industry best practices, we can revolutionize the Air Force healthcare system. Nuance Dragon ambient experience reduces physician burnout and improves the patient experience. Nuance is an ambient clinical intelligence solution that automatically documents patient encounters and accurately and efficiently at the point of care. It securely listens to a clinician-patient encounter conversation while offering workflow and acknowledged automation to complete the electronic health record. This approach saves the healthcare provider time, preserves the patient experience, and eliminates after-hour work. This industry best practice will help reduce burnout, reduce the time with frustrating documentation, and in turn will improve job satisfaction while improving the overall experience for the patient. But we're not done yet. We need a sponsor to continue this momentum. If you are in the healthcare family business, please consider this best practice for your medical center or department. This scalable technology can be used for one provider or for an entire hospital. We're looking forward to hearing back from you.
This seems like a no-brainer to me. Wellness is something that I take seriously. I buy all that. I think this is already, given what's in the chat, this is already kind of being used. So I'm going to focus my comments on the presentation itself and not the content. Because I think this is useful for everyone. Don't oversell it, right? This isn't going to solve everything. This is not going to instantly make a happier and healthier force. So you're just going to set yourself up for criticism if you do that. So stay away from that. Realize that something like this, it's going to be how to bring if you can show that the technology already exists, then why is it not being used? And then how do you scale it in a small way that can prove to the medical field that this is going to be appropriate? So small scale, safe to fail experiments. And then you kind of have to own that anytime you change systems, even if your productivity is ultimately going to be better, you're going to have to buy a little bit of decrease in performance and efficiency. So again, don't oversell that this is sort of a magic pill that will make everything go away, burnout and whatnot. And the last thing is just to go back to the very theme of this Project Mercury cohort, integrated by design, saying things like this put the US in the lead doesn't help build partnering capacity or that sense, right? Factually, it was incorrect. It just by the narrative of World War I, fixed wing, US is in the lead. Well, we actually trailed European nations for a long time because they just had a better take on the innovation environment in that world. So those are the kind of things we need to scrub out of our language because it really is a team fight. Thanks, appreciate it.
Team 6, I'll give you a chance if you want to rebut. Otherwise, we can keep the conversation in the chat in the breakout rooms. I'll give you 3 seconds to come off mute. Otherwise, we're going to keep moving on.
Thank you very much, Colonel, and we'll definitely take the note. We appreciate your feedback, sir.
Thanks, Joe. All right, Team 6, we're gonna let you wrap it up there, give you a break there, and then again, there's a lot of questions and conversations in the chat. Our final pitch will be from Team 3, the Space Invaders. They were coached by Robert Rivers and Paul Ellis. Ladies and gentlemen, over to Team 3.
All right. Should deterrence and diplomacy fail in the Indo-Pacific region, the U.S. must prepare forces to operate amidst a myriad of challenges in contested, distant locations with limited resources. Yet, paradoxically, the ACE concept challenges the conventional principles of war, namely mass and simplicity. In doing so, it exposes friendly sustainment and logistics weaknesses, arguably the Achilles heel of every military operation since organized armies began to maneuver. For ACE to be successful, airmen must operate independently, smartly use resources, limit energy expenditures, and perform various non-traditional tasks. Specifically, sustainment will need to be more energy efficient and will need to build more generalist capabilities out of specialists. While these two issues seem at odds, we propose a solution that saves time, fuel, and manpower needed to bring equipment in and out of theater. Good afternoon, my name is George Knudsen, and welcome to Project Mercury Cohort 9 Space Invaders presentation. Our focus is improving operational resiliency through logistics. With dramatic effect complete, I would like to address just how fast the next conflict period for the United States will start. With the increasing threat of competitors, logistics will be the first to be contested within the Pacific region for the United States, its allies, and partners. This sounds achievable, but what if we could save time, efficiently utilize space, reducing transport costs and fuel, reduce risk, and make it easier on our airmen? Sounds appealing, right? Picture this, a C-130 has been grounded due to a failure with the hydraulic system. What would normally take 45 minutes to fix has increased to over 12 hours. Sortie is launched from a mob and requires 2 stops for fuel within the region during asset relocation. The supply system is queried prior to the aircraft launch for ferry services, bringing hoses and hydraulic fluid to support a repair at a FOB. What appears to be a small Uber-esque scenario results in a Mode 3 aircraft having the parts 18 hours prior to a legacy repair system. This is an exercise in ACE logistics with projects already in development within innovation networks across the CAF. ACE has many challenges to include the tyranny of distance, lack of usable infrastructure, and limited airmen to facilitate operations once taken for granted in 20 years of conflict in CENTCOM. As the once great Omar Bradley said, amateurs study tactics, professionals study logistics. So, where does that take the 21st century Air Force? Welcome Operational Imperative 7. The challenge is creating a hardened system that allows for rapid, flexible deployment of resources. Our high-quality target focuses squarely on operational logistics. We intend to streamline intra-theater cargo transfer by matching the payload to the platform cargo packing processes while reducing the skill set strain on forward deployed airmen. And truth be told, the Air Force is experiencing a bit of identity crisis with respect to finding our place in the Indo-Pacific. While humorous and cynical, this next set of memes presents some of the mixed messaging and preconceptions. First of all, that we are all fighter pilots. We're life-saving heroes to mom and dad, saviors to our allies, that we can take on more tasks despite reaching task saturation, that we're the jack of all trades, and finally, that we can just throw money at the problem to solve these high-end issues. The truth lies somewhere in between. Our senior leaders seek efficiency, while our airmen see overwork, underpay, under-equipped, and a ton of risk. The reality of the situation is we need to do more with less. But what if we could do less with less, saving time, reducing risk, and cost? First, ACE presents an inherent time compression scenario, and our current cargo processing timeline is too late to need. It is well behind the ATO cycle, and by the time critical equipment is identified, packaged, and shipped, the enemy or even friendly order of battle will have long changed. Recent experimentation at Kendina Air Base demonstrated the status quo packing timeline of 100 units is roughly 96 hours versus using LiDAR equipment, scanners, and software applications to reduce airman workload, resulting in the same equipment processing in just 12 hours. Finally, wasteful packaging results in increased cargo flights and waste fuel and time. Industry data shows that when just humans are involved in the packing operations, there is on average up to 25% more wasted space than when using digital technologies. What if we could save time, efficiently utilize space, reducing transport costs and fuel, reduce risk, and make it easier on our airmen? Sounds appealing, right? In fact, we propose a solution so easy that a pilot could do it. We actually mean it though. A pilot could do this and may have to. It's as easy as 4 simple steps. Step 1, gather the items. Step 2, scan them using LiDAR tech. Step 3, plug them into the AI program. Let the AI play the game of Tetris. Step 4, pair the package with the available mode of transport. Could be eVTOL or C-130 on floats. Either way, we seek to exploit every cubic inch of space and do so safely. Actually, why don't I just show you how easy this could be instead? Picture this: a security forces airman uses a tablet to not only scan the equipment, but then package it up and scan it getting ready for the aircraft, while the logistics specialist is building out the manifest with 98% reduced paperwork due to everything being already scanned into the system. This would reduce the workload or reduce the manning necessary by 50%, roughly 50%, and increase the speed by roughly 84%. From the last 9 weeks of independent research, we've been able to validate the need from the force. Team 3 has been able to secure a partnership with Tesseract to continue to bolster community-driven awareness. Through this, we've already validated a path to adoption via 2 grassroots campaigns. First being Project Kinetic Cargo, which was chosen as a finalist in the 2022 AFA Warfare Symposium, allowing for continued development. Secondly, Let's Go Cargo will have an MVP of LiDAR scanning technology to support Air Force initiatives scheduled for later this month. With the foundation of conflict relying on the ability to maintain an airworthy force, our ask is for $3.4 million to institute this within the entire CAF. And also your voiced support to institute these technologies within MAGCOM exercises, with the resourcing provided to ensure the required people and equipment are accessible to design this new technology to support the warfighter. We look forward to your questions.
I think there's a lot of pilots probably chewing on the "so easy a pilot could do it" phrase right now, but thank you, Team 3. Dr. Gevedon, you get to shoot the first question over to Team 3, and we'll go from there. And there's a lot of chatter again in the chat room. I like it.
Thank you. So one thing for sure, congratulations on your project. I mean, clearly you have put in your entire team an unbelievable amount of work, research, clearly discussions with key stakeholders, et cetera. I love anything that's aligned with OI, and I see where you're headed with that. What I will say is that I think from a pitch perspective, you certainly spent a considerable amount of time on sharing the problem, and it is a wicked problem. I mean, there is no question about it. It is a serious problem. It's a huge lift. What I would suggest going forward, I mean, you got to the just a little bit of restructuring, and then I think the pitch would have just really done well. But at the end of it, you have clearly an MVP. You have some successes to date, so you have some significant traction. I think towards the end of the pitch, we began to see that traction play out, which is good. So I think like was suggested earlier, and the last, I think maybe just a little bit of a restructuring of the pitch, but I mean, clearly you've done, I praise you for the amount of work and time that you have put into this, and there could not be obviously a more wicked problem. We're with you there for sure. Does anybody else have any feedback for the team?
I just want to compliment you on being one step ahead of all my comments and hitting them all. Like that kinetic cargo integration is going to be awesome in the Pacific, and please continue to try to find ways to integrate those two efforts, because we are trying to expand that, and it is having immediate effects throughout the AOR. So continue that connection, please, as you drive this forward. That's all I have.
All right, thank you very much.
And Colonel Marshall, also as a fellow Pacificer, we're actually proud to go ahead and say that we are also creating partnerships with the University of Alaska Fairbanks UAS facility as one of the top performers in the country on how do we develop this technology and put it into an unmanned system inside the remote communities of Alaska. So developing a true dual use technology that not only gets after defense problems, but also civilian problems.
All right, I know the judges have a lot of deliberations to do, so what we'll do is we'll just keep the chat going, and we'll have the breakout rooms afterwards, but let's keep moving on with the program here. So I want to say thank you everyone for the excellent pitches, and great job to all the teams, and there's great inputs and interrogations going on in the chat, and these teams again have agreed to make themselves available for more abuse, comments, questions, and remarks in the breakout rooms after the showcase. So speaking of breakout rooms, right now what we're going to do is we're going to send our distinguished judges behind the curtain to the judges breakout room where all the magic happens for their awards deliberations. So judges, you should see a button at the bottom of your screen to join the breakout room. And if they start disappearing, we'll know that we've been successful. And while the judges deliberate, we have the distinct pleasure of welcoming Colonel Johnny Barnes, who's going to talk to us about Task Force 99. And he's joined by Ethan Eagle, who is the head coach of multiple Project Mercury cohorts and workshops. And we're going to go all between two ferns style, and we're going to let these two have a chat. If you have any questions while they're talking, throw them in the Zoom chat. So Ethan and Colonel Barnes, I will hand it over to you.
We're also going to bring a couple of other folks up on stage, but I wanted to give you the first word, Colonel Barnes. Last week, you took a team to Al Udeid to do some work with Task Force 99. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got involved in that project and why Project Mercury alumni were tapped to be part of that process?
Absolutely, Ethan. Thanks for having me, everyone. And my only regret is that I didn't get to see any of the pitches because I was stuck in meetings at the Pentagon. So you guys were luckier than me, I would say, this afternoon. But I was teaching the competing values framework to some guys. Okay, how did I get involved? Why Project Mercury grads? Honestly, Major General Harris was my boss. He knew that we were involved in the innovation education. They stood up Task Force 99 only in October of last year. What is it? It is operational innovation at the tactical level, moving fast with high TRL, off-the-shelf technology to create conundrums for the adversary in the area. No secret who the real adversary is in the Middle East now, and Syria in particular. And the attitude, honestly, was, you know what? They've been messing with us in a lot of weird ways for a long time. I think it's time we mess with them in those ways. And we have begun, I'm delighted to say. However, General Harris thought there probably would be some benefit to actually training some people about how to do this. So I remember when we stood up Project Mercury and I started talking about innovation education. And from more than one person in the Air Force, I said, innovation education, that's an oxymoron. You can't teach this stuff, just like leadership, you're just born with it. And of course, we know you can teach leadership, and we know you can teach some heuristics on innovation. And so that's what Project Mercury has done. Interestingly, Ethan, I really think we were able to mature their thinking in some ways with Task Force 99. Incredible people, very green, blue, They stood up the organization. They're out there ready to win. We had one yellow and one red on the whole Task Force 99 team. So guess where the areas were, that we helped them think through. Hey, how do I think about the bureaucracy without just spitting the word out, and despising it? Hey, bureaucracy is terrain. It's unemotional. It can be used to your benefit. It is to be gotten around, over, through, or to disguise your movements or whatever it is. If you think of it that way, suddenly it opens things up for you instead of just creating this constant grinding sort of friction that makes you crazy. So we brought them that. We showed them some other areas in the yellow space where I think they took notice that things could have improved. I'll stop there and see if we have further questions, or if you have questions that you want to follow up on that, Ethan.
No, that's great. I know Dave Blair was a traveler companion with you. He has said, and this is an earworm from him to me that I'll share with you all, to the bureaucracy, innovation is isomorphic to corruption. And I think that's a powerful metaphor, right? Anytime you try and go around a process to accelerate it, to go faster, that's going to be seen as, are you with me or against me? And how do I know I can trust you? And so that, right, the yellow red pieces of build trust and engage with, and show that you know how to, tie your shoes and wear the socks that are the right color, right? All the good order and discipline, earn that trust as a way to navigate the terrain. I loved that. I'd like to bring up both Dave Brewer and John Jenkins, who are two of the folks that also joined you. And my next question, I think those folks need to add video so I can find them. There's John, and let me grab Brew. There he is, smiling at me. Appreciate that. Brew, this next question is for you, and it has to do with really one of the biggest challenges that we encounter in Project Mercury, and that you encounter, I'm sure, in Aim High, is holding excellence, upholding excellence, right? Achieving excellence is something, right? Get to the pinnacle, but then stay at the top, man, that's even harder. So I wanted to ask you about that. How does being a Mercury alumni, and what were the kind of conversations you had with Task Force 99 about achieving and upholding excellence?
Yeah, I appreciate it, Ethan. Thanks. I appreciate having me on. So it's good to be back. Task Force 99 was a tremendous opportunity for us to dive into some of these concepts. So achieving excellence and maintaining it, let's just talk about across the entire force as a whole. I think that we see that a lot of our folks are kind of beat down with the bumper stickers of the Air Force and of the military. Let's just be honest for a second. We're going to go candid for a second. We talk about innovation being something that we seek out, and yet our commanders squelch it. We hear that the Chief of the Staff of the Air Force wants us to accelerate change or lose, and yet the bureaucracy holds us back. I think that we've got to start connecting the message that our senior leaders are wanting us to actually execute to what at the tactical level we're going to be able to observe. I think there's a huge disconnect there. We can talk about the frozen middle. We can come up with other phrases that we'd all nod north and south on. But the reality is we've got to have courageous leaders. We've got to have courageous senior enlisted that are going to take things forward and take the voice of junior enlisted, junior officers, and those green ideas, allow them to go through the yellow networking and hit ecosystems, but also subject matter experts and action officers. I think once we allow that to take place in some degree of freedom, where it doesn't end up as negative on our OPRs and EPRs, sometimes playing it safe is the best way to accelerate in the military. And I think we've got to change that culture. If we're not going to do it in peacetime, it's going to happen in wartime. I think Zelensky is a good example of that. I personally don't believe that we knew much about President Zelensky in Ukraine until Russia did what they did. And now all of a sudden he's become a wartime hero. Sometimes greatness is thrust upon you in these ridiculous situations. I think that we're going to observe that with the military, where innovators are going to come out of the woodwork, and the innovation weapon system will be enacted in the most unfortunate times. But that's the sad part of the story, right? What if we actually activated what innovation can truly do, bypass the bureaucracy, or even work with the bureaucracy in order to enable and enact innovation solutions, some of which we heard during the pitches today. so that they could actually make an impact transformationally. So, a lot of big things in there. Let's weaponize the bureaucracy against itself. Let's figure out a way to allow senior leaders to get their messages down to the tactical level so that we can start to see this at the ground roots. And I think from there, that will inspire a culture of excellence. Right now, we have to play it safe. Otherwise, you're going to probably reconsider your re-enlistment options. So leaning forward, running the scissors. Yeah, it's good.
I love what you said. There's this adage that, maybe there are times that we rise to the occasion, but often we fall to the level of our preparation. And so I would rather have people who have been prepared and gone through the innovation cycle in a non-urgent, in a non-wartime, right? That I can say, hey, who's gone through kind of a liminal process of transformation? Who's gone through the pain and challenge of reimagining things? Let's bring those people in when we reach a crisis, rather than thinking that magically, in the crisis situation, people will rise to the occasion. Right. I hope that that's true if it becomes necessary, but I also would rather do a little bit more prescriptive, preparatory work. Brew, I'm going to transition over to John Jenkins, who is also on the trip with you. John is also, everybody on this chat is a Project Mercury alum, and I'm super proud of that. I don't want to say my Project Mercury students, because Johnny Barnes went through the original cohorts. But man, it's really fun and cool to see people who've come through early cohorts of Project Mercury kind of take flight. And John in particular has created or has co-founded an institute called Project Nomad that is doing something called culture mapping. And John, I wanted to give you a chance to tell us a little bit more about culture mapping and the value that added to the Task Force 99 week that you did with them. Tell us more.
All righty. Hey, thanks so much for having me on. The trip out to IUD was fantastic. I traded the sandy beaches here in Hawaii for the sandy desert of IUD, but it was great. Culture mapping, 2 ways to utilize it. Every organization has culture. It is what you see in the artifacts. What are the things that you can reach out and touch and feel within that room? But it also goes all the way down into what are the lived values that drive our behaviors, and what are the underlying beliefs that feed into those values? Taking that out to Task Force 99, sitting down with them and going through the culture mapping process with them, we were able to connect their cultural artifacts, their lived values, and their underlying beliefs to the competing values framework, and then draw the connections to, hey, here are all the challenges and pain points that were articulated. And guess what? They're all yellow and red. So if we want to get past those pain points, then that means we're going to have to really bring out the red and yellow in those 2 members, or somebody's going to have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, because if we want the team to be able to be more successful, they're going to have to build some skills that do not come as natural. So that was where we utilized it within Task Force 99. The other application with the culture mapping process is we teach the competing values framework, in Project Mercury, and it's an amazing framework. One of the challenges with that is if I go and tread organization and I sell like, hey, this is why this innovation is really great, and I use the language that connects with the red, there may be more underneath the surface that we have to navigate through. If that is a organization that's maybe not as healthy as some other organizations, then there's other interpersonal dynamics they have to navigate through. If I am a gatekeeper and I don't have a lot of autonomy in my way to do my job, and now you want me to come in and do this innovation thing that I don't have any control over, and you want me to add to my workload, maybe I can get a sense of power by telling you no, right? That's an interpersonal dynamic we have to navigate through. So one of the ways to utilize the culture mapping process is if you're in your own organization and you're trying to enact change, understanding the different cultural dynamics can help feed into your strategy and how you're going to navigate through that organization in order to be more effective. So that's what Project Nomad does. We do organizational culture mapping along with a few other services. And the whole goal is, can we expose the blind spots within the organization, and can we help those organizations more effectively move forward? Really appreciate being on that trip, and it was so cool hearing all the pitches.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'm sure you'll be getting some comments or questions in the chat about how to get Project Nomad out to more locations. Certainly that there's an element there to the Innovatrium creativized process as well, gaining buy-in and kind of understanding the political nature that, all decisions are inherently in a, when you're making a decision with a group of humans, man, there's going to be some politics involved and some culture involved and some power and authority and, all that influencing for sure. Johnny Barnes, the last question for you, I think, and then hopefully our judges will be making their way back. There's going to be some follow-up work, folks going to CENTCOM as part of a second workshop to not just talk with on-the-ground operators who are kind of instrumenting and building a team, but actually folks that are managing and leading and thinking about kind of larger strategic level issues. Can you tell us a little bit more, or in your experience, the importance that leadership plays in cultivating innovation? And what are you hoping to talk to that group about?
Yeah, it goes back to something Brew mentioned. We have a culture that says you elevate risk to the right level. And usually that involves some kind of command something, right? And so what leadership, in my opinion, what leadership needs to do if they expect to innovate is to own and understand the risk that's involved. You do the risk the right way, which does not mean risk-free. There's the old phrase, a ship is safest in port, but that's not what ships are built to do. So how do you create a culture that truly knows they can fail? Again, Brew's phrase, let's have some real talk for a second. We've all heard Big Blue promise certain things, and it at times felt like they didn't mean it. I think, they, Big Blue, they might have meant it, the leadership might have meant it, but then when it trickles down to the poor airman, it just gets lost along the way. And somewhere, some supervisor says, nah, I'm not buying into this. And then in the meantime, the airman had been the one to say, I believe you, Chief of Staff, I'm going to do this thing. And it didn't work out, right? We didn't reward them for that behavior, particularly when failure ensued in a red-blue organization where how you get promoted and how you get rewarded is not by failing. It's by never failing, which is, not experimentation, it's demonstration. So look, leaders need to lead. Leaders need to cast a vision. If you think about the four things that we're graded on as commanders, it works its way right around the prismatic wheel, doesn't it? Stewardship, changing in a positive way, taking care of our airmen, winning. These are all the things that we're looked at. So, hey, don't ignore the green or the green and yellow side of this thing. And especially the green. So there's my lesson, or there's my my advice, unsolicited, for leaders who expect their organizations to innovate. The first time someone fails in the right way, get them in front of the unit and praise them for it, and say, "This is what I'm looking for, guys." And in fact, I would go a step further, and I would say, if you think you can sit there comfortably and take no risk, you're taking a risk. In my unit, that's a risk. So I expect you and will reward those who are positive agents for change.
Awesome, JB. There's a great anecdote in Gillian Tett's book, The Silo Effect, about this, like the siloing of leadership. And so that the message, like, hey, I'm following what the chief said about accelerate change, but somewhere in the middle is somebody who's watching your EPR and OPR, some other manager who's saying, oh no, but you did things that are bad, so you're not going to promote, right? And so the ability of the right hand to agree with what the left hand is doing and to be into coordination, that's a critical piece, right? And we need leaders at all levels to sort of align to this. The idea of innovation doctrine is maybe not new, but it feels paradoxical. Like, how could there be the right way to do this? But I certainly agree with the sentiment wholeheartedly that those who are good experimenters are very likely to be labeled as, potentially incompetent, right? You ran the experiment that didn't work. That makes you really good. You're pressing boundaries and you're scoping out what's possible, the art of the possible, not just nudging the needle by, the closest approach or the safest bet to make, right? It's you push the chips in occasionally, and that kind of thing takes courage.
That's right.
So
don't forget, Ethan, that Luke Skywalker, he blew up the Death Star, but some supervisor probably said, "Yeah, but you didn't finish your training." I talked to Yoda, and he said, "You didn't actually finish this course we sent to you to. I'm sorry, we can't promote you." Right? So,
Luke, you turned off the tracking radar.
Yeah.
Very good.
That's not procedure. Yeah.
So gentlemen, I wanted to thank you all for the work that you did on behalf of Project Mercury. Man, oh man, being a coach is the ultimate volunteer paycheck in this program. And so Jeff DeGraff was unable to be with us today, but on his behalf, and with this august group, I just want to thank everybody who's ever been a part of the Project Mercury process, the coaching and the continued investment in people. And not just projects, but the people. So if you follow us on LinkedIn, you'll see we've highlighted John Jenkins. We've highlighted a number of our alumni through a campaign that we call Project Next. So if you've enjoyed the pitches and the projects that we shared with you today, we want to remind everybody that these are the vehicles of the education process. These are the ways in which Project Mercury tries to bring people through the educational environment, is by giving them really transformative educational opportunities to really try and make change happen. So it is not without failure. It's not without pivoting. It's not without a guide along the side. So all of the teams, I hope that you gave your coach really a big thank you, because this program doesn't function. It doesn't support those innovators on the ground without their coaches. So really honored to have great coaches like John and Johnny, Dave, man, what an interesting foursome that traveled out to the desert. But this idea, again, that giving back and being a part of this community and participating with us in community is really vital to the success of innovation efforts. It's only really having that person that we can turn to and talk to. And man, I loved the Connect 4 pitch that we saw earlier today. Just getting airmen to help airmen. That's a core, it's a foundational element to our curriculum. So really wanted to say thank you to all of the coaches. Thank you to all of the teams. And I think we have a couple moments until our judges will be back. Crash, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind everybody, Ethan mentioned Project Next. And so when you leave the Mercury cohort right now, please don't forget about the Mercury alumni. And on LinkedIn, there's a huge, emphasis that we're trying to put on Project Next, and we highlight folks and what they're continuing to do after they finish their cohort. So we'll continue to do that and continue to share things that the amazing stuff you guys are doing, that Project Next. So keep us informed of what's happening and what you're working on. We've had a lot of great examples of that. We're also going to show all these wonderful videos that you guys have developed. So it wasn't just, something we wanted you to do for the cohort graduation. We're going to show those on LinkedIn, and we'll space them out through the next couple of weeks. So be looking for those too, so you can continue to share. Last thing is, in the chat, I saw a lot of discussion about follow-ups after this. So I know Team 7, I brought it up, and I know Jungle was very excited about that. So I definitely want to hear a follow-up. If any teams continue on with this current project, touch base with us and let us know how it's going.
But the people have voted, and the votes are in for the People's Choice Award, which recognizes the team that's worked on solving a real problem with a real solution, as well as having that wow factor. So if you want to get your drum rolls going, get your air horns and everything else like that, the winner is Wizards of I.D, team number 1. So congratulations on the People's Choice Award. I was also told that it was very, very close. There were some hanging chads, but they won it Wizards of I.D. So congratulations to you on that.
We have one Prismatic Award and then an overall excellence award to be announced. One Prismatic Award, and it will be the Compete Award. And we're going to go to Dr. Atul Dhir to make that announcement. Atul, over to you, please.
Thank you, Jim. I'll echo Jim's, and for the team, it wasn't easy for us to make the decision. Excellent presentations and the work that's gone into it. For Prismatic, we have voted the Space Invaders, Team 3, for the Blue Award. They did an outstanding job. They took the red problem and provided a blue solution where we could, as judges, see how that could be applied. It was clearly fast, would excel in competing and getting to a solution. And we could also potentially think that some of the solutions already used by logistic giants like FedEx and others could be easily deployed. So congratulations to the Space Invaders for the Blue Award.
So Colonel Trew, we're going to bring you back and we're going to turn it back to you to announce the Innovation Excellence Award. So again, grab your cowbells, air horns, any noisemakers, guaranteed to wake up your coworkers. Colonel Trew, over to you.
Yeah, thanks. A couple comments, first of all. So things like this don't happen without a lot of energy being poured into it by a lot of people. So for all those that are involved with making this happen, on behalf of Air University, we really appreciate it. And for the students who showed up, right, to hopefully make a change in themselves and their organization, thank you. The second part is, as you leave here, like think about what you've learned, not just in the specific technical innovation that you've pitched today, but what you've learned about yourself, about others, and I hope you start to see yourself as something bigger. Bigger, and even beyond Project Mercury, and even just beyond the uniform you wear. Obviously we talked about innovation in a joint sense today. We talked about it in a NATO allied sense today. So there's a virtuous insurgency out there, to steal the phrase of the Defense Entrepreneurs Forum. And whether you know it or not, you've been recruited into this insurgency. So we look forward to seeing what you come up with. But now we'll announce the overall winners for today was the Smurfinators. They gave a interesting talk about some good ideas. And what we want to highlight is that idea ready for market? No, but innovation is a messy thing, and it's got the right ingredients. It obviously needs more time and attention poured into it, but we think that best represented the Project Mercury program goals. And we think it best represented the theme of integrated by design. Thanks, Mo.
Awesome. Thank you, Colonel Trew, and congratulations, Smurfinators. Thanks for staying up, and again, Boostapalooza on tap. Judges, thank you for your time and commitment to these innovative ideas that were presented by the Project Mercury Cohort 9 teams. And congratulations to the winners. But today, everyone is a winner because today is graduation day. All right. The individuals on these slides have developed the culture, competency, and communities needed to help their units embrace a more innovative mindset. Individuals who complete all the course requirements will be awarded a Certified Professional Innovator Certificate from the University of Michigan's Ross School of Business and School of Engineering. So congratulations to all our accomplished innovators. You are now part of the Project Mercury Alumni Network. Together, you're taking on the responsibility of being the change agents our units and the Department of Air Force needs. So now I'd like to hand it over to Jim Dryjansky, AU Project Mercury Director.
Hey, folks, congratulations. What a great event. Mo, thank you. Fantastic. So on behalf of Lieutenant General Andrea Tullis, the Commander and President of Air University, and on behalf of Dr. Jeff DeGraff, the founder of the Innovatrium, I want you to know that as you've completed this milestone, we're going to present you today with this round metallic object, which will come in the mail with you along with your certificate identifying you as a certified professional innovator. And so that is the logo for the Certified Professional Innovator. And We only give these out in our warfighting organizations for excellence. So the work that you poured in, the teamwork, all of the constructive conflict, the many, many hours of working through ideas and then shortcomings, benefits, costs, risk, really, really impressive. So it's not easy, but you've now joined a community that's going to top out at over 300 CPIs across the Air Force, and they're across the globe right now. And this is a community that you can tap into for Project Next. So as Colonel Trew said in the beginning, this is not a finish line. It's really a starting gun for Project Next. And it's one person at a time taking the competencies that you've learned, the skill sets, and then leveraging this mindset that we can use constructive conflict and diversity in new ways to solve problems and make ourselves a more efficient and more effective fighting force. So congratulations to everybody. All the best. Back over to you, Mo.
We want to also recognize this very special group of people. These are people who are passionate about innovation and personal growth. These are our coaches. And it takes a lot of ingenuity and dedication to accept the extra pay that doesn't come with being a Project Mercury coach. Now, this rock star lineup of coaches, they squeeze extra hours out of their already full schedules and devote time to innovation and coaching. Congratulations to our new coaches, William Gates, Robert Rivers, Yuri Marte, and James Smokey Williams. And thank you all to the multi-cohort returning coaches, Celeste Summer-Lucius, Brent Harland, Paul Ellis, Dave Sugar-Lyle, John Kerrigan, Amy Natalini, Doug Fullingham, Nadia Fisher, Craig Bying, Brandie Jeffries, and Kristen Torma. Your wisdom and experience are what makes the magic happen. Now, finally, just like H&R Block does after tax season, our coaches selected a most valuable player for each team. These team members showed extraordinary dedication and teamwork toward driving creativity and innovation on their teams. And the MVPs are as follows. Team 1, Ronald R.J. Grimley. Team 2, Bethany Blanton. Team 3, Jolene Beck. Team 4, Jamie Lionheart. Team 5, Julian Cosmo Gluck. Team 6, Mary Beth Slocum. Team 7, Brian Guerrero. And Team 8, Eric Rydell. Congratulations to our MVPs. At this time, I'd like to bring back and present our host, Colonel Trew, once again for closing comments.
Thanks, appreciate it. I'll close with this. It's not just about the thing, right? So you did a thing today, but it's not just about the thing, right? You wax the car, you paint the fence, right? But what we hope happens is you leave here and you go out back after the fight, and you realize that you have some habits, you have some patterns of inquiry that you can use to explore how to get a competitive advantage in this world. So thanks again for everything that you do, and I look forward to hearing great things from you.
Thank you, Colonel Miyagi. We appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our showcase. Thank you to our esteemed host, our judges, our coaches, our students, and to you, their supporters. Thank you again. Keep the conversations going and keep on innovating.